Good morning, Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Las Vegas. What a joy it is to be back here again for our Sunday morning celebration service. For those of you that are joining us from someplace other than Southern Nevada, we are so happy to have you here with us. We know that no matter where you are on this beautiful planet, your consciousness is adding itself to ours right here and right now. I'd like to start this morning with a little bit of gratitude, just to giving thanks for our practitioners who are in service today. We had Christine Page, who gave us a beautiful meditation and invocation just to set the tone for the day. And we have Merlon Hart and Madge Castle, our practitioners who are sitting high watch, holding that consciousness of peace and love and beauty and truth throughout our time together. I want to give thanks to our music team led by Justin Vogel and the wonderful work that they do to set a sacred space. And our featured artist this week is Mackenzie Amar. And we're always thrilled to have these beautiful, talented souls with us, providing the musical inspiration for our day. And special thanks to Joe Blom, our media team lead, who is bringing us all of the technology that allows us to broadcast the programs this way each and every day. So we are so blessed by the talent and the heart of service that is provided to us by these individuals. And I just want to always acknowledge that. And so today we are looking at our fourth week of the exploration of Living Everyday Wonder. Our theme for the year is Living Everyday Wonder, and it also happens to be the theme for January. And it's the start of an exploration of how we can use wonder and awe in all of our different life structures and see what kind of changes we can bring to our lives, how we can go a little deeper in our connection with Spirit and with each other. And so this morning we are talking about questioning everything. That's the title for my talk today. Question everything. You know, as human beings, we are born curious. We have an innate curiosity that is instilled in us within the first moments of life, where we are trying to figure out this world around us and our relationship to it and how we are affected by it and how we can affect it. You know, if you've ever been around children, younger children, you know that they can ask a lot of questions. Studies show that the average child asks between 70 and 100 questions a day. And if you've ever been around a 2-year-old, you know that most of those questions are why. They want to figure out why things are happening, or why they should do things, or why they shouldn't do things, or why certain things are certain colors, or shapes, or sizes, or behave in certain ways. They have this innate natural curiosity that, again, is instilled in the moment we're born. And our willingness to ask questions about our world around us helps us expand our idea of it, and it helps us develop our creativity, which is a key point in living a fulfilled life, is having the ability to be creative in whatever aspect that is. As we age, we stop asking as many questions. Again, the studies that I was reading said that the average adult only asks about 20 questions a day, and the nature of those questions changes dramatically. Adults ask questions that are most often closed off or limited questions, ones that have a direct answer. They're not questions that are asking for us to explore something or to think about something in a different way. They're asking questions like, what's for dinner? Do you want to go to a movie tonight? What time is the meeting this afternoon? These are the kind of questions that most adults spend their time asking. It's seldom that we get into these more probing questions that we were doing naturally as a young child, that we stop doing that as an adult. And I think there's lots of reasons for that. Some of it is because we don't want people to think we don't know the answer right away. There's also not near as many things that we're trying to figure out. At least it seems that way. I think our things that we begin to figure out are a little deeper, and maybe we don't really want to ask those questions out loud. And so we stop asking as many questions in our lives. And so to actually begin to reignite this curiosity, this is what we're talking about here this month, is this development of awe and wonder and curiosity about the world around us and our relationship to it and how it works in us and through us. To reignite this curiosity, we can begin by asking more questions. You know, in the self-help movement, there's a phrase that is often thrown around that you can determine the quality of your life by the quality of the questions that you ask. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions that you ask. And so what kind of questions are you asking? Are you simply asking those questions about what's for dinner? You want to go catch a game after work? Are those the kind of questions we're asking? Or are you asking questions that are actually going to allow space for an answer to move through you? You know, in his book, Life Visioning, Michael Bernard Beckwith talks about the stages of consciousness. And he says that in order to move from the first stage of consciousness to the second stage of consciousness, we have to shift the questions that we ask. Well, the first stage of consciousness is often called the victim consciousness. And in order to get out of the victim consciousness, we have to begin to shift what kinds of questions we're asking. In the victim consciousness, we ask questions like, why is this happening to me? Where we're looking at trying to figure out, what did I do to deserve this? All of that is that idea of I've done something wrong, or I am wrong innately. And so to begin to shift that, we have to begin to ask different questions. We can ask questions like, what is the nature of this? Or what is there in this situation for me to know so that I can begin to not experience this kind of situation again? And so as we begin to shift the questions that we ask, the quality of our life shifts. And we can also ask questions for other things. We can ask questions to get a glimpse of a higher idea, a bigger picture. We can ask questions that will challenge our limiting beliefs. We can ask questions that help us see or do things differently. We can ask questions to learn something new. And we can ask questions to help us become more creative and innovative in our lives. We were at the CSL convention this past week. There were a group of 4 of us from our center here that went to Palm Springs for the Indian Wells, right next to Palm Springs, for our annual CSL convention. And one of the first speakers we heard there was Cheryl McClary. She's a practitioner and a ministerial student. And she asked us the question, she spoke about being innovative disruptors. Apparently it's a business term for something that comes along and totally changes a whole field of business, is this innovative disruption. And so we were challenged with, how can we be innovative disruptors in our lives? How can we be innovative disruptors in our CSL movement, in our Centers for Spiritual Living organization? How can we be an innovative disruptor? And as I was listening to this, the phrase divine disruption kept coming through to me. Divine disruption. We are here to be that place of divine disruption, to shake things up, to break the status quo. There are things that aren't working very well in our lives. And we're all about creating this world that works for everyone in all of creation. But when we look around, we see it's not working for everyone in all of creation. And so instead of just saying that phrase over and over again and not taking action, we're actually being called to disrupt the status quo, to be a divine disruptor. And so what kind of questions can we ask about that? What kind of questions can we ask that will help us see where it is that we are intuitively guided to go and be a disruptor? And where is the divine actually moving us into a willingness to be that? And so those kind of questions can really begin to come forth by the simple practice of asking questions, taking a look at something, and not just taking it for face value, but really begin to sit with it and say, well, what is this all about? And how can I begin to shift it? In the practice of visioning, one of the key thing about visioning is that we're asking questions. We enter into a spiritual contemplation centered in love, and we tap into that indwelling presence within us that is always wanting to bring itself forth into expression. And then we ask purposeful questions that help us get a glimpse of what this highest idea is. Our premise in Science of Mind here is that the idea of something already is perfectly formed and complete in spirit. And we just need to catch a glimpse of it and then be that place through which spirit shows up to create that new innovative idea, that high idea for whatever it is we're visioning for in our practice of it. So we can it's a way of accessing spirit through sacred inquiry, through asking sacred questions. And the questions are asked to help us get, like I said, a little more clarity about what that vision is for whatever the thing is that we're visioning for here. It's tapping into that infinite intelligence. There is this intelligence that is always available within us, that is always there present. If we go back to our Declaration of Principles, our founder, Ernest, says, "We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God." We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature. That's what we're doing when we're in the practice of visioning. We are tapping in to our intuitive and spiritual nature. And we are listening intently when we ask questions that are meant to bring forth that high idea, that are meant to bring forth what it is we need to let go of, that are meant to bring forth the idea of what it is we already have that's going to help bring this vision into fruition. These are the questions that we ask in the spiritual practice of visioning. In recent years, our beloved Reverend Jeff Ryan, who is the senior minister in Riverside, California, has been working with this visioning process, and he has developed what he calls spiritual discernment. And spiritual discernment is actually the process by which we take the vision that comes through in the visioning process into action in our lives. In spiritual discernment, we ask clarifying questions that seek divine guidance about something more specific. So if we ask the question, what is the highest idea for something? And we get all kinds of downloads coming through spirit. And people get them in all different kinds of ways. I happen to hear words a lot. And I happen to smell things a lot. Like I get a lot of cinnamon or lemon or peppermint or some of these lovely, refreshing smells that come through. And it just depends on what it is I'm asking. I also hear songs. In our Vision Corps, we often laugh because we have a Vision Corps playlist, because songs are often popping through in our visioning process. And so we create a playlist of all these songs that we can then sit and listen to just because, they've come through visioning. Some of them are those earworm kind of songs that will keep repeating in your head forever and ever. And some of them are some of our spiritual classical songs that we hear in our services and so forth. It just depends. Pop songs, classical songs, it doesn't matter. Different things come through. Some songs that we are sure it's a song, but we've never heard it before. But anyway, in spiritual discernment, we are clarifying the what. What is mine to do here? What is the next step in this process? What is the direction in which I should go? These are the kind of questions that we ask in spiritual discernment. Again, these are quality questions that are going to help us get a clearer picture about what our next step is, what is here for us to know, what is here for us to do, and so forth. And as we do these processes, sometimes we don't get the answer right away. Sometimes we don't consciously in our mind get that answer. We don't hear anything, we don't see anything, we don't smell anything, we're not singing a song. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. But there's something within us that is catching that glimpse. We may not be aware of it. It may be just that indwelling presence that is just starting to percolate in us. But by asking the questions, we have shown a willingness to allow that answer to come through. Asking the question is the key point to the process. Asking the question and then listening for the response. But we can't listen without asking the question first. In her book, What's in the Way is the Way, Mary O'Malley says, asking a question signals to life that you are ready to live the answer. And then life lives it through you at the appropriate time. Asking the question signals life that you're willing and open and ready to receive it. And then you just have to wait. Wait for the answers to be given. Wait for the signals. Wait for the unexpected things that will come through to deliver that answer to you. I have friends who see things all the time that remind them of something, that they have a question on their heart or their mind, and they'll see a feather, and the feather is a trigger for them. Just take a moment and listen. I have friends that look at clouds and see different cloud structures and get divine hits from those different cloud structures. All of them are, it's not about being psychic or having something that nobody else has. What they have is a willingness to ask the question, and a willingness to sit in the question until it is revealed through them. And I think that is one of the key things. The willingness to stay in a question opens us up to more expansive opportunities. It opens us up to more creative ideas, and it opens us to more inspired solutions for the situations that we are facing in our lives. Author Jacqueline Winspear writes, "Truth walks towards us on the path of our questions." Truth walks towards us on the path of our questions. As we ask the questions, truth can be revealed through us. But we have to have that willingness to ask the question in the first place. And then live in the question, because living in the question makes us more open and available to Spirit, and it gives Spirit a place to operate. It gives it a place to operate through us and bring that into the experience. It creates a space within us in which the infinite intelligence can be heard, and a space that is sure to be filled with the answer at the right time. The answers are available. They are right there. We have to be that open, willing vessel that is ready to receive it, the channel through which it flows. Spirit always fills a void. There's a famous saying about spirit abhors a void. And so it rushes in to fill an empty space, but we have to create the space within us. And what gets filled into those spaces could be coming through as what we call a divine download. All of a sudden, a spark of inspiration. In quantum physics, they call it the quantum leap. It is that discontinuous event that doesn't seem to have a reason for it to happen. There's no starting and stopping point. It's just bam, right there. That quantum leap, that divine download, that spark of inspiration that is coming through us. It frequently comes in on all of the different wonders in the world. As I was saying earlier, the shape of a cloud, a line from a movie, some post that you see on Facebook or some other social media. Maybe it's in the middle of a conversation with a friend. We don't know where it's going to come through. We don't know when it's going to come. We have to be willing. That's our task, is to be willing and open to see what Spirit has in store for us, to see what is available through that question. And so we begin to really work with our questions that we ask, making sure that we're not asking a question from that point of something is happening to me and I've got to fix it. We want to try to move out of that consciousness. We want to move to that third level of the stages of consciousness where Spirit is moving through us. And we call them the to me, by me, through me, as me stages. We're in the victim conscious, something's happening to us. We're in the manifestor consciousness. We are making things happen in our lives. When we're in the channel consciousness, things are moving through us. And so as we move more from those first and second levels of consciousness into that third level of consciousness, we are much more open and receptive to the influx of Spirit. And it is always, always wanting to find a void to fill. And so our task each time is to stay curious, stay in the wonder, stay in the awe, and ask the questions. Ask the questions that you don't know the answers to. Ask the questions where you are willing to be that place which the Spirit flows through. Add the questions to your spiritual practice. My spiritual practice, as many of you know, is drawing a sacred mandala each morning. A mandala is a geometric, usually circular representation of a spiritual concept or idea. And I draw one each morning. And as I sit down with my paper to begin the process, I have these little artist tiles. They're 3.5-inch square tiles. I hold the tile in my hand, and I move my fingers across the paper and I ask a question. Most often the question is, what would you have me know today? Asking of my higher self, my intuitive self, the inner wisdom, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. And I simply ask the question, what would you have me know today? And then as I'm doing my practice of drawing, I sit and listen. I'm open and receptive. Asking the question at the beginning has indicated that I am willing to hear something. I am willing to receive that divine download. I am willing to find a place where I can be a divine disruptor in my life. I am willing and open and receptive to what Spirit wants to tell me at that time. And so begin to ask your questions. Take your questioning into every aspect of your life. Ask the silly questions. As you're driving down the street, ask questions. When you're in a meeting and people are saying things and you don't even have to ask the question out loud. Spirit knows where you're asking it, whether you're in your consciousness or whether it comes out vocally. Ask the questions and begin to see what happens in your life. Begin to see what kind of changes happen as you begin to change the quality of the questions that you ask. All right. And so one of our spiritual practices is our spiritual mind treatment. This is our opportunity to take these ideas and concepts and cement them in one of our most profound practices, our affirmative prayer. And so we begin this practice by recognizing that indwelling presence. And we talk about it. We talk about how it shows up in our lives. We talk about what it means to us. We talk about how we feel it and sense it and understand it. And then we unify ourselves with it. If there is only this one, which is one of our principles, if there is only this one, then this one must be in me, and it must be showing up as me. And therefore, I am totally unified with it. And so we do that in our second stage of the spiritual mind treatment. In our third stage, we speak truth. We speak truth in affirmative statements that are positive and powerful. They're in the present tense, and we make them personal. And then we give thanks, and we let it go. So I invite you to just take it a nice conscious breath. And if you want to, gently relax your eyes or lift them high. This becomes a symbolic representation of our willingness to be receptive. And turning within, I know that there is only one. I know that one as that beautiful, creative love intelligence, that thing which has brought forth everything into existence. And because there's nothing but this one, I know that it created from its own divine intelligence, its own essence, its own energy. And it used all of this to bring forth this amazing universe. All of the parts we know, all of the parts that have yet to be seen by us, all of it is simply that one unique and perfect emanation of itself. I know that there is an infinite intelligence that is constantly moving itself in, through, and as all of its creation. I know that indwelling presence is right at the heart of my being. It is the guiding and directing force of my life. It is the truth of who I am. And because I know this is true for me, I know this is true for each and every individual out there. That we are all that perfect manifestation of the One, endowed with all that the Creator is, with love, with intelligence, with wisdom, with clarity, with passion, with purpose. That is the truth of all creation, of all life, of all that has ever been and all that is yet to be. And so, realizing this truth, I speak my word. I know that right now within each and every one of us, that indwelling presence is active and is seeking that place through which it can bring itself forth into expression in greater and greater ways. And I know that when we have this willingness to ask questions, we open within ourselves that space through which Spirit flows. And I know it flows through each one of us beautifully, perfectly, divinely, just the way that it needs to for each and every one of us. We are all unique expressions of the divine. And therefore the divine shows up uniquely through each and every one of us. It shows up as those sparks of inspiration, as amazing creativity and beauty and joy and possibility. That is the very nature of the divine, and it is the very nature of what is seeking to emerge itself through each and every one of us. And I know that this is a continuous and constant process. The unfoldment of Spirit in our lives. The unfoldment of Spirit through each and every one of us. The unfoldment of Spirit as us. In all that we are and all that we do. And how good it is to know this. How good it is to feel this and see it in action. I'm just so grateful for this power and this presence. And I'm so grateful for the willingness to ask the questions, to sit in the question until the answer is revealed. And so I just release this word into that divine creative intelligence that knows how to do this, that knows when to do this, that knows who to move through into expression. I release it, I let it go, and I let it be. And so it is. Amen.